Hey there, it's Kelly with Kelly Tennant and Associates. And this month, the month of May, I want to talk a lot about the workforce and employee engagement and some things that we can do to help foster engagement for better results within our teams and organizations. And so this week, I really want to talk about the disconnection of the workforce. And do you ever feel like your team is disconnected from the organization in terms of the organization's mission and vision, and there's just some gaps or disjointedness around that? Well, you're definitely not alone. So I want to start by talking about that disconnect, and throughout the month, we're going to look at some different ways that I think that you can address it. It's obviously not going to be every single way, but just some things that are top of mind for me as we jump into the month of May. And so you all know this. We've seen some really great shifts and some great strides and changes in the workforce since the pandemic, which I hate to constantly bring up the pandemic, but it's a good benchmarking time frame for us in terms of a time period, I think, when a lot of things started to shift. I told somebody today, we're not putting the toothpaste back in the tube, and we're definitely not. And I think what happened at that time is it really just kind of pushed that fast forward button. For those of you that remember like VHS, when you had to like push the manual button, woo, woo, woo. It really exacerbated that. So it sped up the process, so to speak. And so we have almost this disconnect still between organizations and the workforce in terms of what organizations need versus what the workforce wants. And so we're going to talk about some of that today. Some of those changes that are top of mind for me are definitely like remote and hybrid working, AI and the integration of AI in the workplace, and really how can we help keep our employees engaged, and how can we help bring them up through those changes so that we're really kind of closing that gap and we have everybody kind of moving towards the same mission and vision of the organization. Because you all know this, it's really my belief that when people are happy at work and happy supporting a mission that they believe in, really it trickles down to the community, and they're happier people in general and contributing to the health of the community that they live, work, and play in. So 3 things that I want to talk about today are professional development. And interestingly enough, professional development opportunities is statistically, at least according to Gallup and some of the statistics that I've seen, is really the main reason why people leave jobs today is because of professional development opportunities, or the fact that their place of employment doesn't have professional development in a way that it's helping to upskill or reskill the team. And so professional development, at least in some aspects of what I've seen, is oftentimes left to upper management or the executive team, when professional development is really an opportunity that should be afforded to everybody in an organization. Because you really have to think of succession planning and things of that nature in terms of how you're going to move people, maybe even those high performers, through your organization. And it's interesting because I was talking to a friend of mine who happens to be in the coaching space. She's a certified leadership coach, and she was reading an article, I think it was from the Harvard Business Journal, Harvard Business Review. I may not have the name right there, but it was from an entity like that where I think it was Sam's Club at one point in 2021 or 2022 was fully staffed. And they attributed that to the fact that they offer professional development across the board. It doesn't matter what you do in their organization, you have access to training and professional development in your role. So I found that really interesting. So I think really professional development starts with stakeholders and those decision makers making that decision that they're going to make professional development a priority, and that learning culture in an organization a priority. Some of those may look like mentorship, reverse mentoring, where both individuals are getting something out of that mentoring relationship, or even looking at how to diversify mentoring relationships to really challenge mental models and thinking. One of the other things that comes to mind for me is work-life balance. And I think, honestly, to me, the whole balance thing is really kind of silly. I didn't want to say it was a joke, but what is balance anyway? You're always going to have, I guess I can equate it to like a marriage. Like, it's never 50-50. Sometimes it's 70-30, sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 60-40. There's always that give and take where somebody's giving a little bit more and taking a little bit more and vice versa. Again, my opinions, my experiences. But how do they really exist together? And somebody that really gives some interesting points to this, and actually a book that I'm currently reading, is High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. And he kind of talks about how the thought of balance is not what really exists, but kind of how does everything coexist together, and how are you managing your mindset and managing your work so that you can get what you need to done. And so it really kind of comes down to, I don't even want to say time management, because it's really more about how do you manage yourself in a manner that you can get things done. But with that, I think in organizations, you also have to recognize, like, surprise, we're human and we work with other humans. And we have to provide opportunities and recognize when our team needs to take care of themselves. And as leaders, we have to have empathy. Like, we have to. At the end of the day, we're people with baggage, people with things, people with bad days. And so how do we manage that? Some other things in terms of this balance, are there opportunities to assess in your organization whether there are opportunities for remote or hybrid working? And will that work for the type of work but y'all know what I mean. Will that be effective in your workplace? Or is there a job sharing or a schedule sharing type of system that can create more harmony in the workplace? And I really do think that organizations are going to have to start challenging that top-down model and think about how they put value on work and the work that people do, aside from just how long you're sitting in a seat at the office. And then the other thing that comes to mind for me in terms of like that workforce disconnect, lack of communication. Communication is key. Communication is one of the hardest things that we have to do as humans, ironically, because we communicate all the time, day in and day out. And it's not just through voice and through words. It's through messaging. It's through, my sister calls it the evil eyebrow. It's it's the facial expressions. It's all of those sorts of things. So many things go wrong because of lack of communication, lack of good, solid communication. And you also have to think of communication in terms of, if you have distributed teams and you have people that are not there on site every day, how are we going to communicate with everybody so that everyone feels part of the team and everybody feels connected? So thinking about those things in terms of, are we doing one-on-ones? And not just to check in, like what's going on with work, but what do you really know about the people that are working for you? Again, we work with humans at the end of the day. What do you really know about the human beings that go to work with you every day? So we're going to talk more about this in the coming weeks. We're going to talk about some strategies for employee engagement, and we're going to talk about upskilling and reskilling. I think those are some really hot topics in the marketplace right now as well, in terms of employee engagement and performance improvement. So with that, I hope you stay connected to us and follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram. or even Facebook. And don't forget to follow our YouTube channel if you're interested in this content and subscribe to our newsletter. So we'll see you soon.